Socrates, as portrayed by Plato in works like the Phaedrus and The Republic, had a skeptical view of writing and reading, particularly in their relation to the oral tradition of knowledge transmission that was prevalent in his time. He feared writing would weaken memory, which he considered essential for true knowledge and wisdom. In Phaedrus, Socrates tells the myth of the Egyptian god Thoth, who invented writing. Thoth presents his invention to the king of Egypt, claiming it will improve memory and wisdom. The king, however, disagrees, arguing that writing will create forgetfulness, because people will rely on external symbols rather than their internal capacity for memory. Socrates aligns with the king's critique, believing that written words are a form of static and inert knowledge compared to the dynamic, lived experience of dialogue and dialectical engagement. Socrates' resistance to reading reflects a broader resistance to the technological and cultural shifts that writing represented. In an oral culture, the spoken word and memory were not just methods of communication, but the very mediums through which knowledge was embodied and tested. The shift from orality to literacy marked a profound change in how information was processed, stored, and disseminated. Socrates believed that by externalizing thought into fixed symbols, reading would distance individuals from the active process of intellectual inquiry. He feared it would encourage passive consumption of information rather than active, dialectical thinking, which was central to his philosophical method. To Socrates, knowledge was something alive, constantly being created and recreated through discussion, not something static that could be recorded in writing. This position offers a lens into how resistance to change is often rooted in concerns about the loss of deeper, more meaningful practices. Socrates' skepticism about reading illustrates a common human response to technological advancements, the fear that new tools and methods might erode valuable aspects of life or knowledge. His critique can be seen as a reaction to the fear that the practice of deep thinking, introspection, and meaningful dialogue would be compromised by the convenience of written records. This dynamic is not unique to Socrates' time, but can be found throughout history, from concerns about the printing press to today's debates over digital technology. His stance highlights the tension between progress and the perceived costs to tradition, memory, and the depth of human engagement. Socrates' opposition also speaks to the complexity of cultural change, particularly when it comes to intellectual traditions. His reluctance to embrace writing reflects not only a resistance to a new medium, but also a deeper concern for the philosophical implications of that shift. Change, especially when it comes to how societies store and transmit knowledge, often brings out both gains and losses. Socrates' caution reminds us that while technological advancements like reading and writing have allowed for the preservation and expansion of knowledge, they may also encourage intellectual shortcuts, reducing the need for rigorous dialogue and the development of memory and reasoning skills. This form of resistance, therefore, reflects not an opposition to progress per se, but a desire to preserve the core practices that foster deep understanding. Socrates' position on reading offers valuable insights into the nature of resistance to change. His skepticism about writing can be understood as a broader philosophical concern with the loss of active, engaged knowledge in favor of passive consumption. This resistance to a new medium of knowledge transmission underscores the complexities inherent in cultural shifts and the balancing act between progress and tradition. His concerns, while rooted in the specific context of ancient Greece's transition from oral to literate culture, resonate with modern debates about the impact of technology on cognition, education, and human interaction. Through his caution, we are reminded that resistance to change often comes from a place of protecting the quality and depth of human experience.